Understanding the Malignant Narcissist, Part 2. This is the, remember when I said they can't actually read people? I'm about to explain that. Read the psychology off. Now, I say emotionally stunted because it implies they can't learn, which emotionally stunted, they can't learn. The correct term nowadays is emotionally immature, which implies they can grow up, so I assume there's just psychology based on making somebody grow up. Which, okay. Chronic self-absorbed, self-preoccupied behavior. They think of themselves first, limited or complete lack of empathy, lack of guilt or remorse, disregard for your well-being, safety, and those you love. They do what feels best. They do not learn from past mistakes and continue to repeat behaviors that has negative consequences. Lack of self-reflection, inability to take your perspective, stand in your shoes. That's going to be an important one later. History of conflict or drama in relationships. History of denying reality due to effective realism. Reality is what it feels like versus what it is. History of distorting reality, making up new narratives about situations to deal with it. History of impulsive behavior, more feeling than thinking, so they do what feels best. Enmeshment in relationships instead of emotional intimacy. May focus on physical things versus emotional. They do not do emotional work. They do not know how to repair relationships effectively. Tetra-lead brain. Anxiety, antisocial personality disorder, that means they're manipulative. Addiction, memory loss, low neurons, and psychopathy. Superior psychology. So, how to understand this. You know they can't read people because they don't have the ability to put themselves in your shoes. And what they actually do is a form of projection where they assume you think and operate just like them, so their manipulations is the same. In one of my other videos, I pointed out Stu couldn't read my facial expressions, and that's because he can't actually read people. He just assumes he knows everything, which is probably the most arrogant thing you could ever do, but whatever, dude. I get my stuff from experience, which is why when I talk very flat and plainly, because these are my personal experiences. Whereas Stu gets his from just straight up arrogance. So, the issue with projection is when I first got into psychology, I kind of assumed everybody was a Bobby walking around. So I assumed everybody's relationship type was altruism, meaning everybody just wanted to secretly do the right thing. And I was wrong. Getting people to do the wrong thing is really easy. And it actually doesn't require a whole lot of money or a whole lot of coercion, believe it or not. People are just that disgusting by nature. I believe my altruism came up because I didn't do emotions, so empathy wasn't a thing with me. Sympathy wasn't a thing with me. I was able to understand sympathy, but my brain kind of went beyond sympathy because I was capable of imagining what it was like to have a broken leg. Something a malignant narcissist can't do. I was capable of understanding things that were well beyond that, in that regard also. So altruism came up in my psychology because I found it as easy as just doing the right thing. And there's less guilt in, these people don't feel guilt or regret, so they don't have to worry about that. But you don't feel bad when you just do the right thing. I guess a great example is this entire situation where they got me to sign the perjury and they got right back to human trafficking, raping babies, and murdering people. Like, I don't feel a lot of guilt or remorse about that, and that sounds really bad, but I did my best, okay? There was an army of people dedicated to, I can list their names, okay? They're all members of the church. They're all equally disgusting. They were dedicated to poisoning me with heavy metals until I was retarded and getting me to sign that perjury. And as I said, from the church, once you start poisoning somebody with the heavy metals, it's like a 90% chance you're going to sign whatever it is they want you to sign. And not to mention, I had been poisoned with heavy metals an ass load before that. A metric fuck ton now that I think about it. Holy shit. Wow, talk about not learning and not stopping when you should fucking stop. It was one of the things I said. I believe God gave you every opportunity to stop, and when you don't stop, that's when you know you're going to hell. And I would argue that every situation in this, as Blondie said, they poison you with the heavy metals until you die. So that was my fate. Is if I didn't sign the perjury, I would have died. Or there's a possibility I would have died before that. I'm gonna get into heavy metals later. The important thing about projection also is they project their insecurities, and I want to talk about that in particular because I remember Stu and the murdering people immediately accused me of doing it. And this is the thing with them. They're extremely insecure. They are the most insecure beings. And the fine line between me and these stupid fucks goes back to when I was being beaten, molested, I tried to kill the guy that did it. These people worship the guy that raped them's balls. Okay, instead of being a man and dispatching that faggot, they fucking suck his dick. Like, whatever, man. It's how you know you're dealing with an army of candy asses. So when you actually have to understand people, because like I said, they use projection. They just project themselves onto you. The other thing they use is, at the church, they poison you with tetralead, and they give you a beautiful addict psychology, and it makes you, once again, makes you less agreeable, and they understand how the tetralead brain works, and then they manipulate you into joining the church. Once you're a lead brain, you go join the other lead brain addicts, and they're like, we can fix it by getting you addicted to LSD. Like, great. That's what I wanted, to be an addict, because everybody wants to be an addict. That's why their heaven is addict heaven with nothing but sex and drugs, because that's the peak in life, apparently. Yeah. So understanding people, a famous example of this, one of the guys I worked with kept telling me he was bipolar, but after a couple of months of working with him, his personality would switch. He wasn't bipolar and would freak out. He would become a completely different person. And it seemed to happen around between the hours of 6 to 9. His psychology would completely change into this other guy that was kind of a dick. And I realized he had bipolar personality disorder. So I told another guy that's better at talking to people, because in a better world, where there weren't a bunch of assholes trying to ruin my life and stopping me and derailing my greatness because they want to give it to a bunch of white guys that are just entitled to everything even though they're fucking useless. Like, in a world where I got to become me, I think I would have been a diagnosing psychologist because I'm that good at it. And, like, yeah, and this is the thing with psychology. You can't just meet somebody and automatically know. Now, there are traits you can associate with people. Here's an example. Republicans tend to have daddy issues out the ass. They are the most daddy-issued people on the planet. I haven't met a Republican that didn't have daddy issues. And they're always funny because they tell you they don't have daddy issues, and then later they tell you about how their dad's a dick, but then they also love their dad. They are all the Prince Vegetas of, like, psychology. Like, they are the ultimate inferiority complex and emotionally stunted. The majority of Republicans are severely emotionally stunted. They only care about themselves. They don't want to hear about climate change because that means I don't get to drive my gas-guzzling car. Also, my stocks might lose their monies, and then I'll lose money. I only care about me. Like, yeah. And here's a fun fact. When you only care about yourself, nobody cares about you. Yeah. And I think Malignant Narcissists realize that. It's kind of funny because these guys almost basically rule America, and they're all lizard brains, and there's a cult of people that believe there's a bunch of lizards that run America. I wanted to talk about the lizard brain because they destroy their halo brain, they're left with nothing but the lizard brain. These guys are the masters of their own hell. And here's the thing about the lizard brain. Remember this guy was in a pond with an alligator? And he had the alligator in his hands, and they were like, how do you know he won't bite you? And the guy's like, oh, I know he'll bite me. But what we have is familiarity. And this is the thing even with my father. What he has is familiarity. He is familiar with you. Okay? We are his kids, and he treats us like we're either an extension of him or a foreign being that's a threat. Yes, he treats his own kids like we're a threat, because he's a lizard, and he thinks like a fucking lizard. Like, I think that the Malignant Narcissist truths, one, they're extremely insecure, but behind the charisma, the bullshit, the lies, and all that shit, I believe it's a being that desperately wants to be honest and open and real, but can't. It's just too terrified. It's scared. But yeah, so but the other side of the projection is you project your negative aspects of yourself onto other people. Like if you're a loser, you're like, that guy's a loser. Like, no, they're fucking losers. Okay, like I don't. Yeah. Yeah, the entire thing is kind of funny. I remember my cuddle buddy kept referring to me as a narcissist, and I realized early on that Stu knew he was a narcissist to begin with. That's why, once again, I'm overly parentified. I'm an adult, and these people are children. That's that whole shit with the threats and stuff, and how I just ignored them, because I don't respect threats. So, in regards to the lizard brain, there's no emotion, there's no connection. So these people want something, but they also don't want to make the connection to get it. They don't want to make that attachment. And I would argue they're afraid of abandonment, afraid of getting hurt. They're just terrified, and fear is probably one of their primary emotions. Obviously, I said earlier, it's envy, and that is true. Their core emotion is envy, but I think fear is a big part, because they tend to use fear all the time. Because fear alters their psychology. And fear's a powerful emotion. It is. Fear can make you make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. Never in fear. Never, ever, ever in fear. So yeah, an example of me recognizing they can't read people is Gannon. I remember Gannon, we had this back and forth. And the whole thing came back to, he didn't have the ability to stand in other people's shoes. And we got into understanding people. And I was like, what about, I remember, it was something obscure. I was like, Gannon, what if you were a pregnant woman? And he was like, I don't do complex thought. That's nuance. But that involves understanding somebody. Okay? If you're a pregnant woman, you feel fat, bloated, you fart all the time, and your ankles hurt, and you're probably fucking miserable to some extent. And we recognize that. That's why we let pregnant women sit down when they're standing near us. Okay? For some reason, we don't let fat chicks do that, and they're fat, bloated, and miserable all the time, but that's beyond me. I don't know. They have swollen ankles too, but we care more about pregnant women. So, Gannon was like, how do you know that? You can't possibly know that. And I know that because I have the ability to put myself in other people's shoes and understand where they're coming from. When I see a hobo, I understand that he's a hobo probably from mental illness. He didn't just go, I want to be a hobo today. He probably was abused or assaulted or some shit, got fucked up, got kicked out of his house, and ended up being a hobo. He got dicked over, okay? Now, these white supremacists can't imagine that because they weren't kicked out of their houses and told they were useless piles. Well, they were entirely useless piles of shit because they all have daddy issues. Famously, when I talked to the FBI, I was like, I thought you guys were all jocks with daddy issues, and the literal dude on the phone was like, we are. We are all jocks with daddy issues. He's like, that is he's like, that's the mantra of the FBI, is we're all jocks with daddy issues. And I started laughing. I thought he was really funny. And he was like, you know a lot about psychology. I was like, I've always had an interest in psychology. The thing about the church that kills me is the self-righteousness is just through the fucking roof with them, because they human traffic, they rape, they murder, they do all the bad things that get you sent to hell. Like, if it is a fact that we are all God's children, and then you at the church are just like, we're going to murder somebody because he doesn't agree with us, when you die, it's not going to be your dumbass heaven where you're going to get to do drugs and have sex forever. You're going to meet God, and he's going to be like, you murdered my son. And you're going to be like, oh, yeah, why do you think you're getting into heaven? And he's just awkward stare, awkward silence, and then straight to hell. Talking about maximizing evil. These people plow babies. That's a part of their religion. So, I remember the back and forth with Gannon about the whole, I asked him a series of other people to pretend to be, and I wanted to talk about the whole, when I said that they can't get over it, like even murdering somebody. Gannon, Ribbert's dead. And Ganon still goes on and on about Ribbert. And that's because it's in his head, okay? Ribbert doesn't need to exist. He tortures Ganon in his sleep. But I also remember this weird shit with Ganon where he kept asking me if I was sleeping good. And I was like, I slept like a baby. I slept like a baby. And he's already... And then I found out later he was doing some voodoo magic at his house. And he was trying to use his magic powers. It's so cute. My father is a narcissist, and he believes he can time travel. Yeah. And this is the timeline he came up with. This shitty fucking timeline. This is what he came up with. And he has nothing in this life. And this is the biggest thing about the malignant narcissist. They always believe they're winning when they are losing. And it's because their value is labeled in stuff and things. They only value stuff and things. It's all material. It's all physical. There's no reason for spiritual or emotional shit. It is all just stuff and things. They're winning. They got all the toys. Blondie, he's winning. He's got my sex harem. He's winning. He's got the women. He's got but he has no emotional content. He has no emotional connection. He can't love. He can't connect with anybody on an emotional level, so he is eternally miserable. Okay? So it doesn't matter how much winning he's got. That's just addict brain. The winning is just addict brain. Okay? It is pure fucking addict brain. And, like, if I had to say anything, like, I can see the value in an emotionally stunted person, giving them tetraled and making them your own flying monkey. And flying monkey's a psychological term. It's a reference to the Wizard of Oz. Basically, the people at the church will do anything for the malignant narcissist. Trust me, I know. They will commit any atrocity. They'll kill their friends and family, all this other shit. They'll do anything for the church. They are flying monkeys. They will do it as told and do it to the letter. Okay? They're fucking maniacs. Yeah. Like, if their system was like, we're gonna go get that lead brain addicted, traumatized hobo and turn him into one of our soldiers, and he's gonna do all the horrible shit, maybe that would be moderately understandable. But the fact that they take normal people, bring them in, rape them, traumatize them, and fuck them up, like, my cuddle buddy's a great example. I remember her retroactively getting emotionally stunted because she got raped by one of the church leaders and then suddenly developed emotionally stunted. Like, this was like, she was a baby. They raped her, told her when she was an adult she was raped as a baby, and then became emotionally stunted. Yeah. And that was traumatizing. And just like any rapist, they all want you to believe they're doing you a favor. They're helping you by raping you. Oh boy, thank you. Like, whoa. Like, the biggest issue I have with these guys is when Nick beat and molested me, I tried to murder his ass. These guys worship the balls of the guy that raped them. Okay? And rape is about control. That is why everybody at the church is raped, because it's all about control. And these guys are the lunatics that want control so bad. They want everything to suck. And they want everything to be scheduled and everything to be designed. They run their own narratives in their mind. If you don't stick to it, they freak out and throw tantrums. Stu did this multiple times where he threatened me at gunpoint and I ignored him. And he was like, you're supposed to get scared and do what I want. Like, you're wrong, because you can't read people. You project. You assume I'm just as much of a coward as you are. Buddy, you're the guy with the tetraled brain and anxiety and paranoia. All that comes from your psychology. Not me. I don't think like that. I'm a completely separate being. I would argue a superior being, to some extent, because I can do things you simply can't do. Process my emotions is one of them. Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to clear that up. Is there anything worthy of a final note here? I guess, I don't know.